By the time a victim realizes what happened, the money is often already moving. Not because someone broke into a vault, and not always because a hacker cracked the bank's entire system, but because a criminal found a way to make a legitimate system process a fraudulent story. That is the central mystery behind many modern bank scams in America. The crime can begin with something almost ordinary, a text message that looks like a bank alert, a phone call that sounds urgent, an email that appears to come from a vendor, a delivery notice, a job offer, a request to verify an account, a message warning that suspicious activity has already been detected. The message is usually built around pressure, sometimes fear, sometimes trust, sometimes opportunity, but almost always with a reason to act before the victim slows down. And once that pressure takes over, the scam no longer looks like a scam. It looks like a problem that has to be solved immediately. That is what makes these cases so difficult to understand after the fact. On paper, the money may have moved through legitimate systems: banks, wire transfers, ACH payments, Zelle, checks, payment apps, or cryptocurrency. The payment may have passed through real accounts. It may have used real verification tools. In some cases, the victim may have confirmed the transaction themselves. But the question at the center of this investigation is not simple. When someone is deceived into moving money through a trusted financial system, who should carry the loss? The victim, the bank, the payment platform, the criminal network, or the gaps between all of them? In 2025, the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center received more than 1 million complaints, with reported losses exceeding $20 billion. Americans over the age of 60 reported roughly $7.7 billion in losses. Complaints involving cryptocurrency accounted for more than $11 billion in reported losses. 1 year earlier, the Federal Trade Commission reported $12.5 billion in consumer fraud losses. Investment scams accounted for $5.7 billion. Imposter scams accounted for nearly $2.95 billion. And among individual payment methods, bank transfers and payments produced the highest reported losses, at about $2 billion. These are reported losses, not necessarily the full number. And that distinction matters because many victims never file a report. Some feel embarrassed. Some do not know where to report. Some believe the money is already gone. Others may contact a bank, but never file with a federal agency. So the official numbers show scale, but they may not show the entire picture. This is not one case. It is a pattern. A pattern where criminals rarely need to break the bank directly. Instead, they exploit trust, urgency, leaked or exposed personal information, fast payment channels, third-party accounts, money mules, and the legal difference between a transaction that is unauthorized and a transaction that appears to be authorized but was induced by fraud. And that is where the story becomes much harder, because the scam is often not the hack. The scam is the conversation. It is the moment a criminal convinces someone that moving money is the safest thing to do. It is the moment a fake warning sounds more urgent than a real precaution. It is the moment a victim believes they are protecting an account when they may actually be helping drain it. If cases like this make you question how much can disappear between official reports, bank policies, and unanswered questions, consider subscribing. Hidden America Files follows the details most people overlook, because in stories like these, the most important truth is often hidden in the definitions. The first step is selection. A target may be chosen because of age, business role, public contact information, social media exposure, leaked personal data, use of payment apps, checks sent through the mail, or routine financial activity that can be exploited. Sometimes the target is a consumer with an ordinary bank account. Sometimes it is an older American. Sometimes it is a small business. Sometimes it is a company employee responsible for invoices. Sometimes it is an organization that believes it is making a legitimate payment to a legitimate vendor. The criminal's advantage often begins with information: a name, a phone number, a bank, a work email, a business relationship, a mailing address, a public profile, a routine payment. One detail may not be enough to steal money, but several details can make a lie feel familiar. That is the second step, the story. According to consumer protection and law enforcement reports, many scams begin with impersonation. Criminals may pretend to be banks, federal agencies, delivery companies, tech support, employers, romantic partners, or investment advisors. The script changes depending on the target. One person may be told there is a suspicious transaction. Another may receive a fake delivery text. Another may be told there is a toll or fee to pay. Another may be offered a job that requires an initial task. Another may be drawn into what appears to be a relationship or investment opportunity before the request for money begins. In 2024, the FTC identified several recurring text message scam types, including fake bank alerts, fake delivery notices, fake job opportunities, fake toll messages, and wrong number scams. That same year, scams that began by text message generated $470 million in reported losses, 5 times more than in 2020. The phone has become one of the most visible entry points for these scams, not because every phone is compromised, but because the message arrives inside normal life. Short, familiar, urgent. A fake alert does not need to be perfect. It only needs to appear believable long enough for the victim to respond. That is why speed matters from the very beginning. A criminal does not always need the victim to believe the story forever. Only long enough to click. Only long enough to confirm. Only long enough to send. Only long enough for money to move. The third step is the moment of access or authorization. In some cases, criminals obtain login credentials, verification codes, card information, or account access through deception. The victim may believe they are verifying identity, stopping fraud, or communicating with a legitimate institution. The criminal then uses that access to initiate a transfer. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has explained that certain electronic fund transfers initiated by a fraudster using credentials obtained through fraud can be treated as unauthorized electronic fund transfers. But other cases fall into a more difficult zone. The victim is not simply locked out of an account. The victim is persuaded to move the money. They may send a Zelle payment. They may initiate a wire transfer. They may move funds into cryptocurrency. They may deposit or cash a check as part of a false job scheme. They may transfer money because someone falsely claims the account is at risk. In many disputed cases, the victim argues that the transfer was shaped by deception, pressure, or impersonation, even if the payment system records it as customer authorized. That distinction, authorized versus unauthorized, is one of the central fault lines in modern bank fraud. It can affect whether the bank treats the case as unauthorized theft, customer authorized scam, disputed transaction, or something else. It can affect reimbursement. It can affect how quickly the case moves. And it can affect whether the funds can be recovered at all. But that is only the first layer of the problem. Because once the money moves, the trail does not end. It begins. A modern bank scam is often not one person sending money to one criminal who simply keeps it in one place. In many cases, the funds move through a chain. Money mules may receive, withdraw, forward, or transfer stolen funds. Some may knowingly participate. Others may be recruited under false pretenses. The money may pass through bank accounts, wire transfers, cash withdrawals, payment apps, or cryptocurrency. The purpose is simple: move the money again before it can be stopped. A transfer can become a withdrawal. A withdrawal can become cash. Cash can be moved again. A wire can cross borders. Cryptocurrency can complicate recovery. And in many cases, the money only has to move faster than the recovery process. That structure appears clearly in federal cases involving money laundering and business email compromise. In 2017, according to the Department of Justice, a university in Canada received spoofed emails and transferred approximately 11.8 million Canadian dollars, believing it was paying a legitimate construction company. The case was linked to Ghaleb Al-Omari, who later became part of a broader federal prosecution. On September 8, 2021, Al-Omari was sentenced to 140 months in federal prison and ordered to pay more than $30 million in restitution. According to the DOJ, he laundered money from business email compromise schemes, ATM cash-outs, and bank cyber heists. Federal authorities described bank accounts, wire transfers, cash withdrawals, and cryptocurrency as part of the laundering activity. This matters because it shows the structure behind the screen. The person who sends a fraudulent email may not be the person who opens an account. The person who receives money may not be the person who withdraws it. The person who cashes out may not be the person who designed the scheme. The scam can be distributed, and when the scam is distributed, accountability becomes harder. Another federal case shows a similar pattern on an international scale. Ramon Olorunwa Abbas, known publicly as Ray Hushpuppi, was arrested in Dubai in June 2020 and later taken into U.S. federal custody. According to the DOJ, Abbas laundered money connected to business email compromise, online scams, and bank cyber heists. On November 7, 2022, he was sentenced to 135 months in federal prison and ordered to pay $1,732,841 in restitution to 2 victims. The lesson is not that every bank scam looks like that case. The lesson is that behind a single transfer, there can be infrastructure, bank accounts, money mules, wires, cash withdrawals, cryptocurrency, business email compromise, stolen credentials, false identities, and victims left trying to prove that what looked like a transaction was actually a crime. But bank scams in America are not only digital. Some still begin with paper, a check, an envelope, a mailbox, a postal route, a system many people still trust because it feels older, slower, and safer. From February through August of 2023, FinCEN analyzed Bank Secrecy Act reports related to stolen checks connected to mail theft. The review identified 15,417 reports from 841 financial institutions, totaling more than $688 million in suspicious activity. That number is striking because check fraud can appear to belong to an earlier era, but official warnings from the FBI and the U.S. Postal Inspection Service described mail theft-related check fraud as rising. In January 2025, the agencies warned that suspicious activity reports related to check fraud had nearly doubled from 2021 to 2023. The method is old, the exploitation is current. Criminals can steal checks from the mail, alter or counterfeit them, and try to deposit or cash them through financial institutions. Authorities have warned that criminals may exploit the period when funds become available before fraud is detected. The scam, in that form, exploits trust in the mail, trust in checks, and the timing of the banking system. On June 30, 2026, former USPS carrier Temeka Babulal was sentenced to 39 months in federal prison. According to the DOJ, the case involved stolen checks, cards, financial mail, and personal information from victims along her postal route, and convictions involving mail theft, wire fraud, bank fraud, aggravated identity theft, and false statements. That case shows a different part of the same machine. Sometimes the entry point is not a hacked app. Sometimes it is an envelope taken before it reaches the person it was meant for. And this is where the story becomes harder to dismiss as only a matter of personal caution. Consumers can be told to watch for suspicious links, avoid sharing codes, verify before paying, and report quickly. All of that matters. All of that. But the scale of reported losses shows that individual caution alone has not stopped the problem. By 2024, consumers reported $12.5 billion in fraud losses through FTC data. The FBI's 2025 cybercrime data showed more than $20 billion in reported losses. Older Americans reported roughly $7.7 billion in losses. Bank transfers and payments accounted for about $2 billion in FTC-reported fraud losses in 2024. Again, those are reported losses. The full scale may be larger, because silence is part of the problem. Some victims do not report because they feel ashamed. Some do not know which agency to contact. Some report only to a bank. Some report only to law enforcement. Some never report at all. And every unreported case leaves less evidence of the real scale. At the center of one of the largest public debates is Zelle. Zelle is a payment network built for fast bank-to-bank payments. Its speed is part of why people use it. It can be used to pay friends, family members, landlords, service providers, and small businesses. It is integrated into many major bank apps, which can make it feel familiar because it appears inside institutions consumers already trust. But fast payment is also attractive to criminals. In July 2024, the Senate Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations released a report on Zelle scams. The report stated that, in 2023, 3 large banks reimbursed victims of Zelle scams only 12% of the time. That finding became part of a larger national argument. How should financial institutions treat a payment that a customer was tricked into sending? Is it the customer's decision because the transaction was authorized? Or is it part of the fraud because the authorization was produced by deception? On December 20th, 2024, the CFPB filed a lawsuit against Early Warning Services, the operator of Zelle, along with Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase, and Wells Fargo. The agency alleged violations of the Consumer Financial Protection Act, the Electronic Fund Transfer Act, and Regulation E in connection with Zelle fraud. Public reporting also described allegations involving more than $870 million in losses to customers of the 3 banks named in that action. But the legal status must be stated carefully. On March 4th and 5th, 2025, the CFPB dismissed the federal case with prejudice, preventing that same case from being filed again. That dismissal was not a criminal conviction. It was not a finding that every allegation had been proven. It was not an admission of liability by the defendants. It was the end of that specific federal case. The debate continued. In August 2025, the New York Attorney General sued Zelle, alleging security failures and more than $1 billion in consumer losses. Zelle denied the allegations and said that more than 99.95% of transactions occur without reported fraud. That response matters, because this is not a story with only one side. Banks and platforms have disputed regulatory claims. In public reporting around the CFPB lawsuit, Bank of America said it strongly disagreed with the case. JP Morgan described the action as an overreach, and Early Warning Services called the lawsuit legally and factually flawed. At the same time, Regulators, lawmakers, law enforcement reports, and consumer complaints have pointed to repeated patterns. Scams moving through trusted systems, victims struggling over reimbursement, and criminal networks exploiting speed. Both realities can exist at once. A payment system can process the overwhelming majority of transactions without reported fraud and still be connected to losses that devastate real victims. The question is not only whether the system works most of the time. The question is what happens when it fails, and who carries the loss when it does. At this point, the investigation reaches the psychological center of the crime. Modern bank scams are financial crimes, but many are also crimes of manipulation. Authority is impersonated. Urgency is created. Trust is borrowed. A victim may be told that an account is at risk, that a payment is overdue, that a package is held, that a job task is required, or that an investment opportunity is time-sensitive. In relationship investment scams, sometimes called pig butchering, the manipulation can last much longer. According to financial regulator warnings described in the research, scammers may use dating apps, social media, fake profiles, and fraudulent platforms to build trust before directing victims toward fake investments, often involving cryptocurrency. In those cases, the scam is not a single text. It is a process. The victim may be shown what appears to be an investment platform. The numbers may appear to grow. The opportunity may appear legitimate. Then, when the victim tries to withdraw funds, the scam may demand fees, taxes, penalties, or additional deposits. By the time the victim understands the platform was fraudulent, the money may already be beyond easy recovery. This is why shame becomes part of the damage. Official reports depend on victims coming forward, but victims may feel embarrassed or unsure where to report. That means fraud data can understate the real harm. And once money enters the financial system, the case becomes both personal and bureaucratic. The victim contacts the bank. The bank reviews the transaction. The question becomes whether the payment was unauthorized, whether credentials were obtained through fraud, whether the customer was deceived into authorizing the payment, whether the institution followed its procedures, whether suspicious signs existed, and whether funds can still be recovered. The language becomes technical. Unauthorized electronic fund transfer. Regulation E. Bank Secrecy Act. Reports. Suspicious activity reports. Restitution. Dismissal with prejudice. But behind every technical phrase is a simple human reality. Someone expected their money to be safe, and then had to prove why it disappeared. This is where reasonable viewers may disagree. Was the bank responsible for stopping it? Was the victim responsible for verifying it? Should fast payment networks slow down suspicious transfers? Or would too much friction disrupt millions of legitimate payments? Leave a comment with what you think. When a person is deceived into authorizing a transfer, should the system treat that mainly as the victim's decision, or as part of the fraud itself? There is no easy answer, and that is why the issue has become so contested. The strongest version of the regulatory argument is that scams are not random accidents. They follow patterns. They exploit fast payments, impersonation, money mules, and weak points in detection or reimbursement processes. The strongest version of the bank and platform response is that most transactions are legitimate. Consumers value speed, and legal responsibility depends on the facts of each transaction. The unresolved space between those positions is where many victims end up. Authorized but deceptive, processed but disputed, recorded but difficult to reverse. That is the hidden tension inside modern bank fraud. The payment may look legitimate to the system, but the story behind the payment may be entirely false. A verification code meant to protect a customer can become useful to a criminal if the victim is tricked into sharing it. A payment app meant for convenience can become a fast exit for stolen funds. A wire transfer meant for legitimate business can become a laundering channel. A check meant to pay a bill can become a stolen instrument. A bank account meant to hold money can become a temporary stop in a criminal pipeline. The scam depends on the gap between appearance and reality. The message appears to come from the bank. The invoice appears legitimate. The investment platform appears real. The check appears valid. The job appears genuine. The account appears ordinary. Then the money moves and the appearance collapses. What investigators and regulators describe is not one isolated method, but an ecosystem. Business email compromise schemes target organizations by impersonating vendors, executives, or payment partners. Imposter scams target consumers by pretending to be trusted institutions or people. Check fraud exploits physical mail and banking timelines. Payment app disputes raise questions about speed and reimbursement. Cryptocurrency scams exploit complexity, speed, and difficulty of recovery. Money mules and laundering networks help move proceeds before they can be stopped. Different scams. Same basic logic. Trust, urgency, movement. The old image of a bank crime does not fully fit anymore. The robber with a mask has been replaced, in many cases, by a message with a logo. The getaway may not be a car. It may be a transfer chain. The crime scene may not be a branch. It may be a phone screen, a mailbox, an invoice inbox, or a fake investment dashboard. The most important point is that the money does not simply vanish. It moves. It may pass from a victim to an account, from an account to a mule, from a mule to a withdrawal, from a withdrawal to cash, from cash to another transfer, or from a payment system into cryptocurrency. Investigators may be able to trace parts of that path. But tracing is not the same as recovery. Knowing where money went does not always mean it can be brought back. That is one of the hardest realities of financial crime. The system can record movement and still struggle to reverse it after the funds have moved again. In check fraud, authorities have warned that criminals may exploit the period before fraud is detected. In instant payment scams, funds may move before the victim has time to question the story. In cryptocurrency-related fraud, recovery can become difficult quickly. The scammer's clock often starts before the victim knows there is a clock. And by the time the victim starts reporting, the money may already be several steps away. Law enforcement and regulators have responded through reporting systems, prosecutions, warnings, suspicious activity analysis, and civil actions. The FBI's IC3 receives complaints and publishes annual data. The FTC tracks consumer fraud reports through the Consumer Sentinel Network. FinCEN analyzes suspicious activity reporting from financial institutions. The CFPB regulates aspects of consumer financial protection. The U.S. Postal Inspection Service investigates mail theft. The DOJ prosecutes criminal cases. State attorneys general can bring civil actions. Banks run internal fraud departments and monitoring systems. But no single agency owns the full picture. One victim may report to the bank, but not the FTC. Another may report to the FBI, but not local police. Another may contact a regulator, but the funds may already be gone. Another may never report. That is why the reported numbers are both alarming and incomplete. They show the shape of the problem, but not necessarily its total size. The federal cases that become public offer windows into the machinery. Ghaleb Al-Amri's case showed laundering connected to business email compromise, bank cyber heists, ATM cash outs, wire transfers, bank accounts, and cryptocurrency. Ramon Abbas's case showed laundering connected to online scams, business email compromise, and bank cyber heists. Tameka Babulal's case showed how mail theft, checks, financial mail, personal information, and bank fraud can connect. Each case is different. Together, they reveal the same broader environment: digital deception, physical mail theft, business impersonation, money movement, legal disputes, victim reporting, institutional responsibility. And the more these angles overlap, the clearer the pattern becomes. Bank scams do not require the financial system to be fake. They require it to be trusted. Real banks create confidence. Real apps create convenience. Real transfers create speed. Real accounts create pathways. Real rules create predictable processes. Real dispute procedures take time. Real legal definitions shape outcomes. Criminals enter through the places where trust already exists. A fake bank alert works because real bank alerts exist. A fake fraud warning works because real fraud warnings exist. A fake job task works because real remote jobs exist. A fake delivery text works because real deliveries are common. A fake investment platform works because real investing has moved online. A fake invoice works because real businesses pay invoices every day. A stolen check works because checks are still used. The scam hides inside normal life. That is why education matters, but education is not the whole answer. Consumers can slow down. They can avoid clicking links in unexpected messages. They can call the bank using the number on the back of the card. They can refuse to share verification codes. They can verify invoices through a separate channel. They can use safer mailing options for checks. They can report fraud quickly. Those steps matter. But the scale of reported losses shows a broader tension. America built payment tools around speed, convenience, and user authorization. Scammers learned to exploit speed, convenience, and user authorization. The result is a system where the customer, the bank, the payment platform, and law enforcement often enter the story at different moments. The criminal creates the pressure. The victim acts under deception. The payment system processes the movement. The bank investigates after the dispute. Law enforcement receives the report. And the money may move before all of them are aligned. This is why reimbursement has become such an emotional question. For a victim, the loss may be rent money, retirement savings, business funds, emergency savings, or money set aside for family needs. For a bank, the question may be whether the transaction meets a legal definition, whether the customer authorized it, whether credentials were stolen, whether procedures were followed, and whether the funds are recoverable. For a regulator, the question may be whether institutions are doing enough to prevent, investigate, and respond to fraud. For a payment platform, the question may be how to preserve speed while reducing scams. For lawmakers, the question may be whether rules written for one era of financial crime still work in another. But for the criminal network, the question is much simpler. Can the victim be moved faster than the system can protect them? In too many reported cases, the answer has been yes. The damage is not only financial. Victims may also be left with confusion, shame, and unanswered questions about how the deception succeeded. That is why language matters. Calling every case a mistake can hide the manipulation. Calling every victim careless ignores the sophistication. Calling every bank responsible oversimplifies the legal reality. Calling the problem rare ignores billions in reported losses. The truth is more complicated. Modern bank scams live in the space between individual action and systemic vulnerability. They depend on human trust, but also on payment design. They exploit emotion, but also infrastructure. They begin with a lie, but they succeed through legitimate rails. And the hardest cases are the ones where the victim technically participated in the transfer while being deceived about the reason for it. That is the unresolved center of the issue. Authorized, but fraudulent. confirmed but manipulated, processed but disputed, recorded but hard to reverse. In the years ahead, this distinction may shape the future of consumer banking. Regulators may continue to press for stronger protections. Banks may expand warnings or delay suspicious transfers. Payment networks may refine fraud detection. Consumers may face more verification steps. Law enforcement may keep targeting money mule networks and laundering operations. New lawsuits may test responsibility, and criminals will likely keep adapting. Because official reports already show fraud across multiple channels at once: bank transfers, payment apps, wires, ACH, checks, text messages, emails, social media, and cryptocurrency. The method changes. The goal stays the same. Get the victim to trust the wrong person. Get the money moving. Then make recovery difficult before the truth catches up. And still, the major questions remain. How many victims never report? How many losses are classified differently across institutions? How quickly can banks detect suspicious patterns? How many mule accounts exist before anyone recognizes the network? How much responsibility should fall on platforms built for speed? How much friction are consumers willing to accept to prevent fraud? And when deception turns a person into the instrument of their own financial loss, does the current system fully capture what happened? There may never be one answer that fits every case. A stolen credential is not the same as a manipulated transfer. A fake invoice is not the same as a relationship investment scam. A stolen check is not the same as a Zelle dispute. A laundering network is not the same as a fake delivery text. But the connection is real. Each scheme reveals a different weakness in the same environment. An economy where money can move faster than certainty. That is the final irony. The American financial system is built on trust. Trust that the bank will hold the money. Trust that the app will send it to the right place. Trust that the check will arrive. Trust that an alert is there to protect you. Trust that a verified account is safer than an unknown one. But scammers do not need to destroy trust. They only need to borrow it for one message, for one transfer, for one code, for one moment when pressure becomes stronger than doubt. By the time the victim realizes the truth, the criminal may already be behind another account, another withdrawal, another transfer, another wallet, or another identity. And the victim is left with a question that sounds simple, but is not. How did money move through a legitimate system while the victim believed they were doing the right thing? That is how many bank scams really work. Not as one massive breach, not as one perfect hack, but as a chain of small openings. A message that appears real, a decision made under pressure, a payment rail built for speed, an account ready to receive funds, a dispute process shaped by definitions, and a criminal network designed to move before recovery begins. The lesson is not to fear every message. It is to recognize pressure as part of the weapon. When money is involved, urgency should slow you down. When someone tells you not to hang up, not to verify, not to call the bank directly, not to speak with anyone, or not to pause, that may be the moment the scam is working hardest. Because the criminal's greatest enemy is often time. Time for the victim to stop. Time to verify through a separate channel. Time to ask one more question. Time for the story to fall apart. And in many bank scams, that pause can be the difference between suspicion and loss. If this investigation helped you see these crimes differently, share it with someone who still believes bank scams only happen to careless people. They do not. They happen when sophisticated criminals learn how to turn trust, speed, and pressure into a payment. Subscribe to Hidden America Files for more investigations into the systems people use every day. and the hidden risks buried inside them.